Ciao everyone, this is Nate on the Stone. Welcome back to my channel, and as promised, this is my initial thoughts and reactions about the movie Unplanned that I saw last night at my local theater. And as you probably have noticed, this is not a live stream. Like I said on Twitter yesterday and on Instagram today, YouTube has changed its rules in the last month since I did my last and first live stream, and now you can't stream on your mobile device unless you have 1,000 subscribers. And as you've probably noticed, we're not quite there yet. We haven't grown the gang to that size quite yet. So this is just a special video, no cuts, no edits, no clips of anything. This is just purely kind of stream of conscious, my thoughts on the movie Unplanned. And oh boy, everything good that you have heard about this movie is true. This is one of those movies that is not going to, hasn't received a wide release, and critics are going to hate it. Yesterday I actually looked, it looked like audiences love it. I think on Google it said 89% of audiences gave it a thumbs up, but Metacritic only gave it an 11%. Rotten Tomatoes only gave it 50%. So I think that the critics are hating on this movie, which isn't surprising because this movie is powerful. And first and foremost, it is very intense, I think is the right word. This movie is very intense. Within the first 5 minutes, it is true, you do see a surgical abortion. You see what happens. And then a little bit later into the movie, I think within the first 20 minutes, you see another one, a chemically induced abortion. And they don't, they do not, what's the word I'm looking for? They don't sugarcoat it. They do not sugarcoat what happens in these procedures. You see the blood, you see the pain, and you see what happens to the baby, you see what happens to the mother. I mean, they don't pull any punches. In the first one, where you're seeing the surgical abortion, you see the sonogram of the baby, and you know the abortionist is there, with his tools, and the screen cuts black, and you think, oh, it's going to be one of those things where you build up the tension, but just before the abortion actually happens, okay, the screen went black, we're going to cut to something else. Okay, we get the picture. No. Screen comes back on. You're in the exact same room at the exact same time, and you see the abortion happen. You see it. So this movie does not pull any punches. And that is really what gives this movie its power. And that is why the left and the ideologues on the left hate this movie. I'm not really going to talk about, the plot or anything, because I think everyone pretty much knows about the plot. In case you didn't, it's an autobiographical movie about a woman named Abby Johnson. She herself had 2 abortions, which are shown in the movie and which she wrote about in her book. The movie is actually based off of her autobiography that she wrote, which is also called Unplanned, I believe. And so Abby Johnson, she had 2 abortions, and then she worked for a number of years as the director of a local Planned Parenthood facility in Texas until the realization of what she was doing and what abortion actually entailed made her quit. She quit, and now she has a prominent voice in the pro-life movement. So the movie is really kind of a snapshot of that. It shows how she got into Planned Parenthood, kind of her career in Planned Parenthood, and then what causes her to get out of it, and then the immediate after effects of her leaving Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood doesn't just kind of smile and wave at her and says, well, it was nice knowing you, have a nice life. I mean, no, there is a vendetta, and they come after her with a vengeance. And that was actually, honestly, one of my favorite parts of the movie. But that, in a nutshell, is the plot of the movie. But I don't think that that is the reason why the left hates this movie so much, because Honestly, it's a pure flicks movie, which means that it is kind of a Christian movie, but it doesn't have the feel of a Christian movie. You know, Christian movies have existed for a while. They have been released, and the left might laugh at those movies, but the left doesn't come after those movies like they have come after Unplanned. Twitter was really trying to silence this movie's reach. A bunch of people said that they would follow the movie's Twitter account, and then they would find out that Twitter had actually unfollowed them. The movie lost a whole bunch of followers on Twitter under not exactly kosher circumstances, and so there has been a lot of endeavor to restrict the reach of this movie. And the reason isn't just that it's a Christian movie. It's not just that it's a Christian movie that deals with abortion. It's that it's a Christian movie that doesn't feel like a Christian movie. I'm going to say something here that might seem kind of snobbish, but I think it's the truth. A lot of Christian movies are not very good. Let me just put it plain out there in front of you, gang. Most Christian movies are not very good. And by that, I am not trying to denigrate or insult any of the people who act in Christian movies, who direct Christian movies, who produce Christian movies, who work on Christian movies in post, or anyone who is involved in making and distributing Christian movies. I think that they put 150% of themselves out there in their work. I think that they are genuine in their convictions, and I think that their hearts are in the right place, and they are just trying to do what they can to get their message, and honestly a message that we probably, most of us, need to hear out there into the open so that it can have an audience. But the problem is, and I don't think that I'm in a minority when I say this, is that the message in most Christian movies becomes the sole focus. You concentrate so much on the message that the story and the characters suffer. I haven't seen too many Christian movies, but when I have seen them, I have definitely felt like I was being kind of beaten over the head with a metaphorical 2x4. Like, did you get the message? Did you get the message? Did you get the message? This is the message in case you didn't know. This is the message in case you didn't know. And it's like, show, don't tell. Show me the message. Don't tell me the message. Unplanned shows you the message. It doesn't tell you the message. It shows you the message. And that's why the left and the ideologues on the left hate this movie, because it doesn't just engage your head. Right? It doesn't just tell you what's wrong with abortion. It doesn't give you a list of facts or figures. It doesn't give you personal testimony from people who had abortions and who are now being portrayed by actors and actresses. Nuh-uh. It doesn't just throw facts at you. It doesn't just engage your head. It engages your heart and the moral imagination so that you feel the pain, not just of the babies who are aborted, but you see the pain of the women who have abortions. You see the pain of their families. You see the repercussions of what an abortion does. Abortion doesn't just happen in a vacuum. It affects so many more people than just the baby who is aborted, and even just the mother who has the abortion. And because it shows us what abortion does, it doesn't just tell us. It shows us by engaging our imaginations and engaging our hearts that it's so powerful. And that's why it stays with you. This is one of those movies that, honestly, I'm never going to forget, unless, of course, I get dementia or Alzheimer's, or, someone sneaks up at me in the middle of the night, hits me over the head, and gives me amnesia or something. I'm always going to remember this. And there are some scenes that are, it's cliched, but they aren't going to go away. I mean, they're kind of stuck up here. And I was driving home last night, and I was just kind of thinking about it, like, damn, that was intense. Because, you you know, if you're pro-life, you know intellectually what abortion does. And you can even read, you know, the steps of an abortion procedure. You see pictures of what an abortion does, but to actually see it on film, recreated, you know, on film, that is what engages your heart, and that is what engages your moral imagination. Plus, because the message is shown and not told, the movie can actually focus on the characters. We actually care about Abby Johnson as a person. We care about her husband, Doug. We care about her family. We care for the people who ran the emergency pregnancy center, the pro-life center that was actually just down the street from this Planned Parenthood facility in Texas. A Planned Parenthood facility, FYI, that actually closed its doors permanently in 2013. We care for all of these people. And because of that, because of all of those things, that's what makes this movie dangerous. Because the ideologues on the left, they've known for a long time that the way to get people on their side isn't just to engage their heads. You know, Scott Adams said, I think in one of his Periscope streams on Twitter last week, that you can give people facts. You can overstuff people with facts, but 9 out of 10 times, 8 out of 10 times, if we're being generous, it's not going to change their minds because, you know, we're people. We have, you know, our environment influences us. You know, we have our own prejudices and biases and our own preconceptions. So facts that attack those preconceptions, those biases, those prejudices, we can just dismiss them, we can explain them away. But when the heart is engaged and when the moral imagination is engaged, then people change their mind. That's why, you know, there's the saying, changing hearts and minds. We don't just say, I'm going to change your mind. No. To really get someone to change their idea, to change their position, you have to change their heart as well. That's what this movie does. And that's why the left hates this movie. That's why the ideologues have been attacking this movie. That's why critics hate it, because most critics are on the left, unfortunately, like college professors. Most of them are. And that's why social media has been trying to constrict this movie's reach. Because if you're pro-life and you go and see this movie, you are going to leave even more firmly convinced and determined to end abortion, to save babies, to save women's lives, to save families. And if you are pro-choice and you see this movie, you're going to be badly shaken up. You are going to be badly, badly shaken up by this movie. And who knows? You might become pro-life after watching this movie, or the seeds of you changing your mind and becoming pro-life down the road might be planted after seeing this movie. They know that. They can smell a dangerous enemy when one pops up, and this is one such dangerous enemy. That's why they hate this movie. That's why they are afraid of this movie. That's the reason why. Just a few more quick things. I said that this wasn't really a Christian movie, and it's not, in the sense of it doesn't play off of the cliches of the Christian movie. Are there a couple, you know, come to Jesus moments? Yeah, there are a few, but really, it's nothing really so jarring that will make you kind of lose interest in the movie or kind of bring you out of the movie. There was one moment when I was kind of pulled out of the movie. At the very beginning, Abby starts off with Planned Parenthood when she's a junior, I think, in college. I think a junior. And she starts as a volunteer. And their job is to escort women from their cars to the inside of the facility to keep them safe from the pro-life people who are gathered along the fence. And so you see these volunteers, you know, they're always on the lookout. And if a woman is coming for an abortion, you know, they come right out and engage with the women right away so that the pro-life people don't have a chance to rescue or save them or whatever. And then later on in the movie, after Abby has left Planned Parenthood, you see her by the fence, and she actually starts talking to a girl who's come up for an abortion, and she convinces her to actually not get an abortion, but to come to the pro-life center down the street. And I'm watching this scene, and it's a very powerful scene, it's a very good scene, but in the back of my mind, I was just thinking, wait a minute, where are the volunteers? You know, I'm expecting a volunteer to come out of the building and try and snatch this woman away from Abby. You know, where are they? They didn't come. And that's an artistic, that's an artistic decision, a filmmaking decision, small plot hole, but really nothing bad. I mean, if you watch an almost 2-hour movie and that's one of the only criticisms that you have of it, they did a very, very good job. All the actors, of course, small name actors, because unfortunately, the way that Hollywood is, no one very big was going to be in it. They all do a really good job. They all do an excellent job. I was invested in all of the characters and all of their lives. My two favorite characters, honestly, were Doug, Abby's husband. He was really funny, and the lawyer who they get at the very end, who Planned Parenthood sues Abby and the pro-life center, and they get this lawyer who's a friend of the head of the pro-life center, and I forget the lawyer's name, but he was a riot. He's only on screen for maybe 5 minutes, and I was just saying, you're one of my favorite characters, buddy. I love the cool, confident, collected, kind of wisecracking character, and that was he in this movie. But another thing that just comes to mind is that another thing that this movie does so well is it actually shows us how to convince people to become pro-life. At the very beginning, when you see Abby going to the Planned Parenthood facility for the first time, you see a bunch of pro-lifers, and they're along the fence. And I mean, they're shouting and calling the women baby killers, and all you had to do was keep your legs together, and now you just don't want to assume any responsibility. You're terrible. You see someone dressed up as a Grim Reaper, and it's like, yeah, that makes you feel good. That doesn't do anything to save babies or to save women's lives. And then you contrast that with her husband, Doug. Abby and Doug, okay, they get married after Abby has already started working as a counselor at Planned Parenthood. Doug has always been pro-life. He doesn't agree with abortion at all. And yet he still marries her. He still loves her. And they disagree on that, but they still love each other. And that, I thought, was one of the most powerful messages shown in this movie, the power of love. That's a cliche, and I don't think that we really give the power of love the respect it deserves, because we've reduced love to that fuzzy, warm in the tummy feeling that we get, when we're dating someone new for the first time, and we're all on pins and needles, and oh my gosh, we're so much in love, and it's great, it's wonderful, and nothing bad can happen. They have that in their relationship. Doug and Abby have that in their relationship, but it's so much deeper. It's like, I love you so much for who you are that this, basic divide in our beliefs can't separate us. That was powerful. It was like, what power, what kind of love says, I disagree wholeheartedly with, not only with what you believe, but with what you're doing. But that's not going to stop me from loving you. I love you just the same, and I want to spend the rest of my life with you. That was powerful. That moved me, honestly, gang. That is what really moved me. And I think that that's the way, to end abortion. We're not going to end abortion or convince people by calling women baby killers. And, the pro-life people, I don't think today do that. But it just showed, you can't fight. You can't fight darkness with darkness. You've got to fight it with light. You can't usually fight fire with fire. You've got to fight it with water. something negative, horrible, the end of a baby's life can't be fought by, with anger or hatred. It has to be fought with love for these babies, love for these women, love for everyone, which is not to say that we can't be justifiably mad and angry at the ideology, at the idea. And I think that that's the important distinction. Be mad that abortion is allowed. Be mad that Planned Parenthood promotes it. But, don't hate the people who are in it. Don't hate the women who are getting abortions, which is not an easy thing to do, especially with these new campaigns like Shout Out Your Abortion, where, you're supposed to be proud that you got an abortion, that you killed the life of an innocent baby. I mean, that is not good. That is horrible at all. Very hard to do. But no, that is the way forward, and that movie showed this very, very well again. So, those are my thoughts about the movie Unplanned. Go and see it, and then after you go and see it, spread the word somehow. If you have a YouTube channel, make a video or make a spiel on it. If you have a blog, do the same thing. If you don't have any of those things, write a post on Facebook or make a story on Instagram, or, just, make a little 3-minute video and put it on Twitter about your reactions. Do something so that more and more people can see this movie and watch for themselves. They can have their minds, their hearts, and their imaginations engaged. And we can do a lot of good that way, guys. So I'm going to cut it off here, guys. I will see you all on Tuesday. In the meantime, have a great weekend, and I will see you here on Tuesday on Top of the Stone. Ciao.